Hi, welcome to Spinster actually, and welcome to this Finish It February themed podcast episode. Yeah, I would say, my name is Anna Marie, but I would say that I was somewhat successful in Finish It February, but mostly I started more projects. Is that maybe fair? I don't know. I mean, I finished, yeah. I didn't really finish many of the things that I talked about in the sort of like whip show and tell that I made at the beginning of the month. But I did finish, although these weren't like long term. I mean, I haven't actually blocked them, so I guess technically these aren't finished in that sense. But these are the Marit mittens by Skeindeer knits. And I'm super happy with how they came out. They're like colourwork selby mittens. And I just think they're so like cute. I sort of finished them just in time for it to just be like definitely too hot for me to wear. But that is okay. I will start wearing them as soon as possible at the end of this year, or like, you know, when it gets cooler again. Also because this is made of quite thick yarn, I would say. My tension is definitely, especially on the backs, not great, but like I said, I haven't actually blocked these yet, so I do want to do that, and hopefully it will like slightly change. I do think that like this is maybe slightly too tight colourwork wise to like completely disappear in blocking. But for me, the most important is that the fronts look really good, and I think that they do, even if I think some of the tensioning could get better with blocking, but like, yeah, I think these are great. And I'm just really happy with how they came out. I was a bit concerned that I was going to have not enough of the white yarn, which is the like main colour yarn in this, because I had way more of the pink than I had of the white in the end. But in the end it was okay. I like knit both of these before I knit either of the thumbs, because I wanted to make sure I had enough for like the full mitten without the thumb, and so that was fine. And then I knit one thumb and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure now I do actually have enough. I will say, I think like some of the shaping I wasn't a particular fan of, and I don't particularly like the thumbs, I think, in the end, like from a sort of pattern perspective. I think they actually look better on camera than they do in real life. I was happy with my tensioning of the other side of the thumb. I think that looks pretty good. But yeah, and then some of the decreases, I think both was my fault, and also I don't know that the pattern was particularly, I mean, the pattern was completely fine. I just mean in terms of the shape it was creating, I'm not sure that I particularly like it, I guess, is maybe what I'm trying to say, I think, actually. But I mean, still very happy with how these came out. I feel like these really fit. Oh, I didn't talk about what I'm wearing, but like I decided I did want to wear something like knit today. And so I made this, like, it's a self-drafted raglan. I'll take these off now. Oh wait, actually before I do, so this is very chaotic. One thing that I did find, so the way that you do this pattern is it's about like, it doesn't have different sizes in terms of stitch counts, but it does, you just like change the needle that you're using to get a different gauge / size. So I was knitting with, in the main part, 4.5mm needles, which was really quite large, I felt. And then in the like this section, which is sort of like, it's not ribbing, I mean there is a small amount of ribbing, but you know, it's supposed to be more tight, that was at 4mm needles. And this one is the second glove I knit, and so I made sure to knit this less tight than I had knit this one, because I would say that this one is actually maybe slightly too tight. Like it's okay and I can get these gloves on, and then in the main body, like there's room. I think these actually fit kind of perfectly, to be honest, because sometimes I feel like there's a lot of space, whereas this there isn't, but it's not like it's too small, you know. I think it's kind of the perfect size. But yeah, the like this section of each, but especially this one, is just like a little bit just a little bit tight and small, but yeah, still really pleased with how these came out. And I do think some of it might help in blocking. I don't think it's going to really change massively in terms of this section at least, but I do want to do that, because I do think it will make some kind of a difference, even if it's not major. But yeah, really happy to finish those. Obviously they sort of weren't really a Finish It February thing, because like I cast them on in like January, and then I finished them in February, so you know, but they were something I wanted to finish. And so I am very glad I did. and I have now knit 3 mittens this year so far, so I kind of do want to keep going, but obviously it's not really mitten season anymore, but maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Okay, to get back to what I was wearing, so this is like a self-drafted raglan that I made, I think 2 years ago now. I actually haven't really worn it, and I don't particularly reach for it at this point, but I was like reminded of it when I was like looking for something to wear that I had knit for this episode, and I saw this and I was like, oh yeah, I could try it on. I have washed it, and it definitely has some parts of it, I wouldn't say they've felted, but they've certainly just become more kind of coagulated together, a little bit more like matted together, especially like the mohair, but I actually kind of feel like that works especially on these sleeves, which I love how these work. Like when I was wearing this and walking around and getting ready, I was like looking at my sleeves being like, oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I think I have talked about this before because I will have talked about it in like a podcast episode where I made it or like had finished it, but yeah, I do find that the fit is not particularly how I like it, but I think for like my first self-drafted garment, it's nice, and I obviously like the sort of colour combinations, although I do feel like some of the pinks have become a bit more grey in this, and like maybe in comparison with the other colours and stuff in a way that I don't particularly like. But yeah, I basically knit the raglan way too long, at least for the vibe that I was going for. So I like is this still called a yoke if it's a raglan? Anyway, like this section of it is just a bit too long, and then I think also the neckline doesn't fit so great. Like I said, I'm still really happy with it as a project, and I should try to wear it a bit more, especially because there's probably only a few more months where I could wear this without being too hot, because I just get hot really fast. Okay, so other things that I finished. Let's talk about this. I can't remember if I showed this, but this was one of my sewing kind of works in progress. You can see there's a safety pin. I am counting this as like finished. I actually have worn this to a party, so I think it counts. And I wore it like the day after I had or the day of me sewing the waistband, which is basically what this was waiting for. Because yeah, it just it hadn't had its waistband fully attached. Like it was attached one way. It does look very wrinkled. I think when it's on, it's less bad, and I kind of was thinking I would try to maybe iron it. But I also, it's partially because I was working against the way that the fabric really wanted to fold, because it was in a different waistband shape, and even when I tried to iron those creases out, it didn't really work, and I sort of was also just like, I don't care. But yeah, I'm fine with it pretty much. And I do have one popper here that I sewed on. I haven't found the other side of it, and I haven't quite decided exactly where I want to put it, which is also partially why I'm kind of counting this as finished, because I sort of think I need to wear it to figure out what I want for the sizing and the closure completely. In terms of the placement, this closure stuff is fine. So that's why there is a safety pin, and that's what I used when I went to the party. And yeah, it was working out so far. We'll kind of see how it fits into my clothing and wardrobe, and maybe I'll just, yeah, I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of like a skirt that's sort of almost a bit too fancy for me, really. It's a bit I just don't know where I would wear it, which is partially why I wore it to the party, because I was like, it's a party, I think that's gonna be kind of good. But then, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could try and make it fit more into my just everyday. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I finally kind of have finished this to the degree that I can wear it, so that I can figure out how to wear it, basically. So that's great. It was a lot of kind of small-ish steps of, trimming the hem because it was way longer, and then, redoing the waistband. Also kind of rejigging the, I mean, did I completely replete it? I can't remember, but I think I must have repleated the pleats at the back to make it fit slightly better, because it was a bit too tight, and yeah, so happy with that. I made sure not to tell my friend that I had done this, because they told me that they watch these sometimes when they're crafting. So Jess, now I'm going to tell you what I was going to tell you when you came over to my flat. Because I talked about in that whip show and tell video that I had this long 1x1 rib sort of belt that was going to be part of this other project, which I frogged, but I wasn't going to frog this because it's just silly amount of knitting basically in time. And what I said I wanted to do was like maybe turn it into a belt, but I really didn't like the edge of the, like the side that was cast on. I liked how this side had come, you can't really see it, I liked how this side had come together, so I wanted the other side to match that. So I tried first of all like undoing the binding, just like undoing it, but that didn't really seem to work. And to be honest, I'm a little confused. Like I don't really, maybe I don't understand knitting. This is what I've concluded. I don't think that's quite true, but I don't understand why if you cut a piece of knitting, you can pick up and knit from the live stitches, but you can't if you unravel it. Like, why is that so different? I don't understand. But yeah, so in the end, I cut the knitting and I picked up the stitches. I didn't do a very good job, and I'm not sure if that actually show up on camera because it's too light, but like I just didn't really care, and then I knitted how the other one was like knit at the end. I obviously haven't like done the ends. I've been kind of thinking about like trying to find a belt buckle or something to see if that could be like a fun way to wear this, and then I could like do an I-cord edge to make a little loop to place the side in, you know, so it would work. Does that make sense? It doesn't really matter. Anyway, so yeah, this is like not a complete project, but I did the like main thing that would help it be complete if I am gonna try and make this into some kind of belt in my actual wardrobe. So I'm happy with that. I guess maybe I shouldn't have included it in the finished object section, but that's okay. So yeah, then, I mean, again, this is technically not like a finished object, but I did make some progress with my spinning. So this is some swarblers, which I finally plied. It's a 2-ply. I'm actually really pretty happy with it. I haven't actually like wet or thwacked this or anything because I just like didn't really have the spoons, I guess. But I think it's like looking, you can't really see it either because it's a beautiful color of just black and dark. But yeah, I'm like, I think it might be like slightly overspun, but again, I think it will also be okay when I like wet and thwack it and stuff. But yeah, it like did make me feel good to like get especially one full bobbin that I had already spun, plied, and then I do have a bit left of the other one, but I'm ready to kind of like keep going with the project, I think, a bit better, and that's great. And it also feels like, I feel like sometimes I just get to a point with projects where the ply I'm making is like constantly breaking, and I can't get back into the rhythm. Like I'll have like a rhythmic moment and I'll like be able to fill up a bobbin, or not completely, but just like, you know, fairly consistently, and then suddenly like I can't get back into the rhythm, and every time I try to rejoin yarn, like I can maybe like spin for like a little bit of time but not very much, and then it breaks again, and I've just sort of lost my touch with it, I guess. And that's how I felt like with the swarblers that was on my bobbins, which is partially why I was just like, I've got 2 bobbins, like and I'm making 2-ply with this project generally, except for with some like experiments, I guess. So I may as well just ply it up and see. And then yeah, I feel like there's probably quite a lot of meterage here, because I did just go on, which I was like, whoa, okay. And I felt like definitely at points I was just like, oh, this is really like consistent spinning, like I was really happy. And then there were parts where I was like, okay, I lost my consistency there. Yeah, but some of it, yeah, really happy with. And yeah, I guess I'll put this in my needs some attention because I do want to, yeah, like set it. But yeah. The other finished object is one of the reasons why I said it was more like start it February as opposed to finish it February, because I knit this. This beautiful snail out of handspun. It's using all my handspun, like I didn't sew it up or anything. And I can't remember the pattern name, but I will like link, like I'll write it in the description box. And yeah, so I used my handspun for it and I was so happy. I use mostly stuff I spindle spun, and then I actually like the shell, which I think is probably the best part. Like it's so beautiful. I'm really happy with how like this showcases my yarn, and it's also a like beautiful little creature, and I love snails. Like I love snails. So yeah, and I love her. Her name is Asta, partially because I was like making her whilst reading a book called An Unkindness of Ghosts, and the main character is called Asta in that, and in the book she like kisses a bug and stuff, and I just felt like she's like also kind of a scientist and a healer and stuff, and so I was like, I think she would appreciate this lovely snail. And yeah, so this is like a blend from Wingham Woolwork, which I was spindle spinning, like I said. I think some of this actually I was spindle spinning during Tour de Fleece, so there might be a video where I talk about it a bit more. And then this is kind of like a hodgepodge yarn I made of just like stuff that I spun badly, or like fibre that I took out of stuff, and I put it all together and carded it a little bit on some hand carders I have. And then yeah, there's more of this one, and then this is the black is my Swarblers, which was spun on my wheel, and then yeah, it goes back to more of this. And yeah, I'm just like so happy. I kind of want to make another one, but I guess that feeling is like lessened as I've moved away, because I do think she's just perfect, so she can be like this. Okay. Yeah, just delightful. And also one of my kind of goals for this year was to knit toys, because I see a lot of just adorable cute toys, and I've been kind of creating and collecting like a list of them, and yeah, I just like really wanted to make some, but I haven't got around to it. So finally I did, and I started with this beautiful creature. So yeah, for now she kind of belongs there as a little companion. So yes, those are kind of like the finished things. I guess in terms of the projects that I showed in that whip show and tell that I wanted to focus on, one of the ones I showed was this, which is a tolsta tee, which is coming along. I didn't make that much progress with it as I kind of expected to, but it's partially because I started different and new projects, and yeah, but I figured out where I was. I made some progress, definitely. It's got these two nice stripes now. I think I only have a little bit more of the like raglan increases before I will split for the body, so that's great. I'm kind of like wanting to get to that point, but I guess maybe I need to try it on or something, I'm not sure, because this pattern, like, I'm not sure if I actually do need to do the bust shaping. I can't really, and like partially because I'm a bit fast and loose with whether I knit the gauge and stuff like that, so I don't know, but I might have to do a bit, like a few bust increases, but I don't think I'll have to do like a particularly large number. Also, this is just like very like light and airy, but yeah, I think it's looking great, and I'm looking forward to making more progress. It is fine that I didn't finish it February, because I don't really need to finish it. I just kind of also wanted to like get some momentum with it so that it could be my like chill, easy stockinette project that I don't have to have loads of spoons or like, you know, loads of like brain power for, but I can still do some nice knitting. So that was perfect, and yeah, hopefully we'll make a bit more progress with that too. The other thing that I thought I would mention in here, that I did mention in that yeah, like finish it February video, is this, which kind of doesn't really look like anything, but I talked about like outsourcing some ribbing to my friend, and this is the ribbing, and it's too big. I think it's like way too big. I don't really know what is happening with my gauge in ribbing. I will kind of talk about another project where that's like a problem. I mean, I realize I didn't knit this, but in the sense of like, it should just be not like this. I started picking up for the beginning row of just like non-ribbing, and I was just kind of like, oh no, this is just way too big, and so yeah, this is for the Peggy. Is it just called Peggy? I think it is. It's just called Peggy. It's a vest. I've been really wanting to try out having a vintage like vest pattern. It's partially because I definitely, obviously, like, these things are all constructed socially, blah blah blah, but I have a lot of very intense feelings about like what I will wear from the perspective of like what feels like feminine to me, partially because I'm a femme, so like I think about femininity in a particular kind of way, and I want to like present myself in a particular kind of way, and I also just feel like most comfortable being like kooky, queer, feminine, like lesbian. That's me. Vests are something I kind of want to try out to see if they might work for me. Sometimes I kind of feel like, and again, these are my feelings, so I'm not saying that if you wear vests, they're inherently masculine, but for me, sometimes I just think they're a bit too masculine for me and my style, and they just wouldn't like really work for me. But I also kind of think that they could really work. I don't know, like, and I do think they're very beautiful, I guess, and they're also, from a kind of temperature and like sensory perspective for me, they might work really well as like knit wool garments, because I actually feel like I probably would be too hot to wear like a full wool jumper, because I just get hot very easily, and But if it's a vest, then I've got like, it's only a part of my body that is like encased in the wool, and I have my arms free and stuff, and I also do have like sensitive skin on my arms, so again, like that's kind of useful to let breathe, or at least not be against a lot of wool. Yeah, I don't know, so that was kind of that. But back to this project. So I put it away when Odie gave it to me, and I realized that this was just too big. And then I recently took it out, partially because it was like the end of February, and I was like, okay, let's have a look at this and think about it. And also partially because this other project that I started with ribbing, I have made some progress that I think is kind of helping me to figure out how to at least like mitigate some of the like largeness of the knitwear. So I wanted to, basically I sort of did make a gauge. I mean, like I took the gauge of this kind of, or at least, yeah, I, obviously there's like a particular number in the pattern, and the size that I was making, which is like the 8th size, I think, that size is calculated on my bust measurement. So obviously I do understand there being some kind of disparity between like it fitting at your waist or your hip or whatever, with your bust, because your bust measurement might be like different, you know, people aren't scaled up, especially I think as you get into like larger sizing, people are scaled differently at different points. But I also still, yeah, I think, I mean, so the calculations I made was I measured this like when it's not stretched, and then I also, because that's the thing with ribbing, right? Like it's not supposed to be like completely unstretched. Like ribbing is supposed to be a little bit stretched, because that's the point of like ribbing. Tight fit without actual tightness. And obviously I also don't want it to be super tight, but a little bit of like clinching at the waist is partially why there's all of this ribbing at the beginning of these like vintage vest patterns. Yeah, so I measured it when it wasn't stretched, and then I tried to stretch it as much as possible to see how large it would go. And so I got like 48.5 inches was unstretched, 67 inches was stretched, and my waist measurement is like between, let's say, 44 and 46 inches. So like that's just way too big, right? Like if I want it to be slightly stretched but not stretched to like its largest size, then I need it to like, I need 44/46 to be kind of like in the middle of the range that the ribbing can go to. So first of all, I tried to see what the numbers would be like if I basically decreased the size by about 25%, to see then how that range would be. So I times 48.5 by 0.75, and I got like 36 inches, and I times 67 by that same number, and I got 50 inches? Yeah, 50 inches. And I feel like that's still pretty big, but I kind of want the ribbing to be more in effect than not, so I would prefer it to be slightly smaller than that. And so I went instead for I times the same like measurements by 0.7, like instead of 7.5, just 0.70. I times that, and so I got 33.9, so 34 inches, and 47 inches. And I think that is better. It might be a little bit snug, but I think it will be better. I then also times the number of stitches that the pattern gives you to be by 0.7 as well. And I times that to see how many stitches it would give me, and then I try to look on the pattern to see what size was nearest to that stitch count, which is the end is crazily size 1, 2, 3. It's like it's like 4 stitches above size 3. So I don't really know if I do knit that size, or if I ask my friend if they're up for knitting that size for me, or like the ribbing of that size for me, but I think I will have to, because I've based these measurements and like calculations off this, which they knit, so I don't even know if my ribbing would be this size. So again, yeah, this project has taken me like actually years at this point, because I did knit the ribbing myself, and then I tried it on and it was way too big, and I thought it was because of my needle size stuff, which it clearly was, but then it's also like this is still an issue. So my concern about knitting a smallish size is that I'm going to have to increase loads and loads in order for it to ultimately fit me and to fit my bust. I could be, you know, wrong, and I don't know what could be happening, but I think it's worth doing that, because this is just not, it's not the vibe I want, and it doesn't look like, yeah, it's not how I want it to be. So yeah, that's kind of the update with this project. This is going to be frogged. And then I think I'm going to get my friend to knit. I mean, I also could get them to knit the size 4 instead, which is, I think it's about 22 stitches up. So either it's 4, like the size 3 is 4 stitches below the stitch count I got with the 0.7 maths. Also, sorry if this doesn't make sense. I'm terrible at maths, but I'm doing my best. Or it's 22 above the stitch count, which I actually think is probably the safest bet, because 34 and 47 are quite close to, or like 47 is quite close to the outward end of how the ribbing would be, so maybe that would give me a little bit more. But then at the same time, I kind of want to go for the size 3 because of just how large this came out, you know? Anyway, a little bit more I need to think on, but like the main conclusion is this will have to be frogged, and I will have to do it again, see if my kind friend will do it again. Okay, so then for things that I started that were not on the list and I didn't plan particularly to start them, we'll start with the other vest because it, you know, follows nicely. So this is just ribbing. And this ribbing is much easier to knit for me because it's much less small, like it's not on smaller needles, and yeah. But I have knit this ribbing twice, maybe 3 times, but not this much, but yeah, let's say twice. This is another, I'm trying again with a like Sydney, I think she's changed her last name, Roseweck I think is maybe her name now, but like a Squid School of Vintage Knitting pattern where you calculate the whole pattern based on measurements that you kind of plug in, and you use like formulas that are supplied by the pattern and stuff, and the like body measurement sheet that you can get. So this is going to hopefully be the Darrowby vest. I started with like 260 stitches for the ribbing, which was based off of my measurements and then also a gauge swatch I knit. But like the gauge swatch, in fact I should have brought the gauge swatch. I'll just put a picture of it. But it's looking really lovely. I'm like excited to make this project. But yeah, so I cast on 0.5 smaller needles than I was gonna knit the full the rest of the garment in, and yeah, that was like 260 stitches, and it was just really big. I measured it again in terms of like not stretched at all and then stretched, and I got 33 inches to 60 inches, which is just obviously way too big for the fit I want and just for me in general. And then I calculated the difference between those, and it was 0.55. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but in the end I actually did the maths the way that I did the maths for this. It's because I also did this math first, actually. It's just I wanted to talk about this one first. And I also asked my friend Jess, who, like I said before, may or may not be watching. Hello. Yeah, we times the measurements by 0.75 to see what we got. But that gave me, 0.75 gave me 45 inches as the like largest, which is maybe a little small. But I know, anyway, I've been trying this on and stuff, like this isn't too small, so that's fine. And yeah, so then in the end I cast on, I think 196, could be 194 stitches. So obviously that's like a 70 stitch difference, which, yeah, I don't really know what's going on with me and my ribbing. I mean, maybe it's just that like the sort of, like I just don't have the same, like I need to go way down even if I am, like let's say I'm knitting the rest of the garment in 4mm needles, which I'm hoping to do for this, then instead of being able to just go to 3.5 to do the ribbing, I need to, like in the size in the pattern, you know, with the number of stitches that it's supposed to be cast on, based on the gauge, like instead of 3.5 I need to go down to like 3mm or even smaller. But it's like I don't want to be knitting ribbing on really small needles. That's like partially why I asked my friend to do this, because like I don't like that. It's not good for my hands, and it's also like a lot of stitches and then they're really small. So yeah, I don't really know what's going on there, but this so far has been working. I kind of do want to try it on again, but I think fairly recently try it on, and like, you know, I could get it on and stuff, and that's fine. And yeah, so I've just got to knit a bit more ribbing, like I don't know, depends how much I want, I guess, but like at least a whole inch more, I would say, probably more, but we'll see. And yeah, the same friend who this is the Jess and Odie episode, the same friend who did this knitting for me, they had this like leftover green yarn from a project that they were knitting. They have all of this, so I weighed it to see how much I have, and I think it's like 500 grams if I remember correctly, and so I'm pretty sure I can get a vest out of it. We'll see, I might be wrong. I think it's kind of like actually I'm not sure if it's like a worsted-y, but the pattern that they made, like my friend originally, was like using DK weight, or like that was what was called for in the pattern, so I feel like trying to knit it at a DK kind of ish gauge should be okay. And yeah, it's green. I've been trying really hard for the past like 2 years to have a year of green and make something green like to wear, and I've really failed for the past 2 years, so hopefully with this project I'm gonna succeed. But yeah, it has already taken a bit of troubleshooting, but hopefully it's gonna be okay. The vest has like cables on it, it's really cute. I think it's also quite simple, so that's also kind of why I wanted to go for it. And also it means that because it's kind of simple but like not completely stocking out or anything, the colour of it should also be kind of like as like a big part of the garment, you know, so that's also why. I also did kind of like the idea of making some kind of nice vest out of this green because of like 1940s kind of vest vibes like that, and like vintage stuff, like maybe a little bit like land girl army stuff. So okay, and then the final thing doesn't look like anything, looks just kind of strange points, but this is gonna be Joris. So like I was on like knitting Reddit and somebody actually I think it was the casual knitting Reddit, and somebody posted Joris and I fell in love. I love Joris. Maybe I will put a picture and I'll like link the post so you know who was making this, but I just fell in love with Joris. Like I love him. So I was just like, well, I have to make Joris, and so I did begin. I need to knit one more point and then I've done the back of his head, and then I can knit the front of his head. And I'm knitting it with this yarn, which I just really didn't know what to do with, but Jess my friend, like they gave it to me because they were like, I don't think I'm gonna use this, and it's not their colours particularly, and so I was like, okay, well I'll hold on to it to see if I can figure out what I could make with it. And I think this is really the main thing that I'm going to make with it. I think this is merino, I can't remember, the band's somewhere over there. So yeah, Joris. Now that I have finished my mittens, I think I will try to do a bit more knitting on this for sure, and then also hopefully get some more progress with this. And obviously the tolsta tee is here, and that will also be part of the rotation of things. I did make a little bit more progress with the quilting placemats that I made, but not like I didn't finish them. And yeah, I think I still have one to like quilt, and then maybe I made progress on the one that I was half quilting already, so I'm making progress with that just slowly. Just haven't been in like a sewing mood, I guess, lately, which is hence all the knitting. Yeah, I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to talk about. Another episode where I'm frogging something. Should I just start to do it? I think I'm gonna start to do it. Yeah, no, I think that's everything I had to say. There's been some like interesting discussions around like crafting. I wouldn't say necessarily craft politics, but the use of craft in politics is what I would maybe want to say instead, which has been interesting. I might leave a link to one of the videos that I really liked and I thought was really good, even if, you know, I maybe didn't agree like entirely with it. I guess I'm saying that because I think the kind of like utility to like resistance and to struggle that craft has, I think can be heavily overstated, especially by like liberals online. But I do think it can be really important and meaningful to kind of like center the way that like crafting and making clothes and making whatever you're making is a way that you can express some of your autonomy and agency, and then use the kind of confidence of your own capacity to build things, make beautiful things, learn how to create things, to use that agency and that confidence in the world and against fascism. And obviously, I mean, there's obviously like a lot to say about crafts and like the politicization or the depoliticization of crafts, and like I obviously come at this from the perspective of a feminist. Like I don't believe that craft is completely like neutral either, but I just think sometimes we want to feel really good about what we're doing, and we're not thinking about how effective we're being. But at the same time, I think like taking the skills that we learn from crafting and from making things, especially in community, can be really helpful in terms of like being stronger and more powerful in the face of like violence and power. I hope that makes sense. I guess that's just kind of like a little bit at the end I want to end on. I don't know, it's just like maybe you've been like making something whilst watching this, and I hope you feel like galvanized by your capacity to make things, to make the world a better place, is I guess how I want to end. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox and continue to frog something. But I mean, you know, trying and experimenting is also part of like building a better place, isn't it? And a better world with people. So frogging, revolutionary practices. That's kind of the opposite of what I'm saying. But anyway, okay. I hope you're having a good day when you're watching this, and I will talk to you when I next talk to you. Bye.